Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to our sixth episode of our virtual series, Greater Goals for Girls. I'm Julia Wall, head of school at Stewart Country Day School of the Sacred Heart in Princeton, New Jersey, and I am joined each week by with Hillary Nastro. If you wanted to introduce yourself, Hillary.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being with us. I'm Hillary Nastro, the Director of Enrollment. I'm also the parent of a current first grader, Anna, who started at Stewart in the early childhood program. And I am very excited to hear what our students have to say because it is my hope that my daughter will one day grow up to be just like these young women we have with us today. So I'm excited for you to hear from them. If you have any questions about admission or enrollment or would love to come visit us, my information is on the website and I would love to show you around. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Hillary. And just to start with the overall concept of this series, Hillary and I were talking about how we might bring an authentic version of Stewart to you. And we both have the fortunate circumstance of being new to this community this year. So we both started in July. And part of how we're getting to know our community is through the voices of those who lead it and our students and our alums. And so we've been having so many conversations with community members about who we are and what we value, and so that's where really this concept of this series came from. Is that we were finding that universally people were identifying for Stewart that we seem to have greater goals for girls, that we're guided by the Sacred Heart goals and values. And really for us, that makes a significant difference to the experience that our students are having. So our idea was to have a series of conversations that you could really sit in on. They're meant to be casual and they're meant to be brief, maybe during your lunchtime, that just gives you little windows of the different areas of our school. And today, we are talking with Dr. Muoio from the upper school, and she is bringing with her two students. So, Dr. Muoio, if I could pass it to you and you can introduce your students.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thanks so much, Ms. Wall. Good afternoon, everyone. So happy to have you join us live this afternoon. I'm Dr. Marissa Muoio. This is my third year here at Stewart. However, I'm not new to all-girls education. I'm the product of an all-girls high school experience up in North Jersey, Mount St. Dominic Academy. And I also spent the last 10 years of my career before coming to Stewart in all-girls education. I am so blessed and honored to be able to spend each and every day of my life serving our students in this capacity and really helping to shape the future of women in this world. And I'm very proud to have a piece and an opportunity to do that. I'd love to have my students that are here joining me this afternoon introduce themselves. So Britt, perhaps you could start with your current grade, how long you've been at Stewart, and a little bit about yourself.
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Brittany Barnwell. I'm a current junior in Stewart's Upper School, and I've been here since 6th grade.
And Dana?
Hi, my name is Dana. I started at Stewart in 9th grade, and I'm currently a sophomore here at Stewart.
Great, great. So I want to kick it off by talking a little bit about our goals. And so we're rooted by 5 Sacred Heart goals, which are universal to Sacred Heart schools across the country and across the world. And they really provide a roadmap for how we are to lead and live in these spaces. And so just quickly, for those that are unfamiliar, I'm going to read off those goals. And then if you could just think about them as you think about your daily experience here and how they might dovetail with that experience, how they might mirror that experience, how they might inform that experience. So the first goal is a personal and active faith in God. The second goal is a deep respect for intellectual values. The third is a social awareness that impels us to action. The fourth is the building of community as a Christian value. And the fifth is a personal growth in an atmosphere of wise freedom. So with those in mind, if you three can talk about maybe a goal that resonates for you in your life currently at the moment.
Sure. I'd love to jump in here a little bit. My road to Stewart was led. I grew up in Catholic education, independent Catholic education, and for me, while I attended Dominican institutions prior to this, for me, I was attracted to the Sacred Heart goals because I think that they serve as this wonderful roadmap for how to live a great life. And the spiritual aspect to me as a leader is really important because I have this incredible opportunity to frame, I think, the issues, the complex issues that face our young people, that face our world today, in a way in which we can be grounded in faith. And that's really important to me. I also love the service aspect of our mission here at Stewart. I think that is absolutely essential. We're so grateful that this year we can be back out in the community after 2 years of COVID and serving our local community, as well as looking for opportunities in which our students serve every day in our state, our national and global perspectives as well. But I think it's incredibly important to think about what is the true meaning of life? How do we develop humans that are really going out into the world to serve in that way and to lead in that way? And I think being a Stewart graduate and being a product of Sacred Heart education means that we have that pillar of faith wherever you're coming from in terms of your spiritual journey. But I'll let Britt and Dana comment on their favorite goals and why.
I can go. I'd say one of my favorite goals is probably the last one, the wise freedom. I think that as an upper school student, I think that is one of my favorite and one of the most important goals, is because no one's really kind of hovering over you or holding your hand as you go through like classes in everyday life. This option, Dr. Muoio, definitely here to help you out from time to time, but I think you definitely learn a lot of independence and how to manage your own time, productivity, which is very important. And also you have a lot of freedom within your schedule from choosing the classes that you want to take as well as the required classes.
That's
Yeah.
a good one. I like that one.
I definitely agree with Dana and Dr. Muoio, and I think my favorite goal is definitely goal 2, a deep respect for intellectual values. I feel like I'm very challenged here at Stewart to a level that is suited for me, and my teachers are always there to support me and back me up, and so are my friends and the wider Stewart community. And I feel like I'm gaining a great education here with so many great opportunities that allows me to like truly stimulate my education and be challenged intellectually.
Nice.
I think for me too, living out each and every day, seeing the goals, there's so much interconnection between them all. But another aspect that I really see in action every single day is our community and our sense of community in all of the small ways and the big ways. But the small ways, those are my favorite moments. And that's when they are in, as well as their peers, in my office each and every day, just chatting about sharing what's going on in their lives, sharing what their goals are. Right now, we're in the midst of course selection for next year. So we're having lots of those goals meetings and talking through what their aspirations are. And that is extremely fulfilling for me in my everyday life too.
Right. So I'm thinking of a couple of identifiers separate from these goals that for us are unique. And one of those is the fact that we are a school that's designed for girls. I think that there's a lot of myths out there worth debunking about what that might feel like and look like. And I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit about what it's done for you in terms of the environment and your own personal growth, and also why what's out there that you'd like to just spend a little time saying, well, that's not true. So however you'd like to answer that, that idea of all girls.
I think I'd like to first kick it over, Britt. Maybe you can take the lead on this one, and then
Yeah.
we'll come around to Dana and myself. Go ahead, Britt.
Okay. So yeah, like I said earlier, I came during 6th grade. And I came from a public co-ed elementary school. So it's definitely a shift from going from co-ed public to private Catholic all girls. So that was definitely one of the kind of challenges I faced. But then I kind of overcame that by being in this community with all girls. Like I felt like I was being seen and heard more. There weren't boys challenging me inside and outside of the classroom for a teacher's attention, for peers' attention. It was just like a solely female-dominated field, which is something I think I really needed. It helped me to grow as both a person and as a student, which is very advantageous, has been very advantageous to me. And I just think overall the all-girls education has really supported me and I hope it will continue to support me even after graduation with the sisterhood and the alumni network.
So, Dana?
Yeah, I agree with Brittany 100%. I mean, I came right after COVID, and I was previously at a public co-ed middle school. So I think that was a bit different in age and like maturity and just the way we're and right after COVID, which is hard as well. Just that regular jump from middle school to upper school or middle school to high school was a big jump, but also going to a new school, an all-girls school. There's definitely no competition in the classroom. You find that there's not a lot of favoritism when it comes to like boys and girls, especially with sports and things like that. There's not a lot of like competitiveness in the sports, which I also enjoy. And I also think that it's just really nice with the community here, and we're all a lot closer, and there's no like maturity gap, and we're all kind of like on the same wavelength.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think for myself, I knew right away as I stepped into education that I wanted to be an educator in an all-girls space because the formation for myself and my own identity, the mentorship that helped really shape my life and my goals, to see myself in a lot of different ways in developing as a faith-filled person, and developing as an academic, and developing as a student athlete as well. And those experiences truly shaped my frame of education and what it could look like. And that's why I love to be in an all-girls space. I think for me, in my role, in my capacity as head of upper school, I see myself, one, as certainly a lead teacher, and then also a lead mentor, and making sure that we're creating spaces in which all of our students can truly bring their authentic selves, their full selves to school, and can feel well represented in our classroom spaces, as well as in the performing arts and athletics and all of our co-curricular club spaces too. So that's really where I'm coming from, where I see that play out in our all-girls environment.
I want to talk sort of in the same vein as we think about the myths surrounding an all-girls school. I want to talk a little bit about what it might feel like to be in a Catholic school, and our school in particular, because I think that not all Catholic schools feel and look the same, right? I think that Sacred Heart schools are very unique in our approach to spirituality, and I think our invitation to so many different religions and belief systems and spiritual contexts, and keep that invitation open throughout a student's educational journey here. And so as I was learning about the community and coming to understand that about a third of our students are identifying as Catholic, and the 2/3 are not. And so I just wanted to know, from your perspective, how you see spirituality showing up, as it's reflected in your own personal identity and growth. And I don't know if I don't know how you identify. It really doesn't matter. But I'd like to talk a little bit about that, because I think that one of the myths is that because we have an identity as a Catholic school, it might not be for you, which I don't believe that's true. So anyway, if you can reflect on that.
We don't either, but we're happy to talk through it. Dana, maybe I'll start and then head over. I think for me, being a part of a Sacred Heart school and having a faith-filled institution is reflected in our service. It's reflected in action. And I think any young person today can ground themselves in wanting to leave this place better than they found it, and really as a connection point. And then also, I think the wholeness aspect is real for me. I think that our identities are complex, and being able to consider what it means to be spiritual in any capacity, what it means to have no faith background, and what that looks like in connecting with others from different faith backgrounds. There's so much value in that. I think our world at times is extremely polarized, and we lack a necessity of dialogue. So being able to really have spaces in which we can bring our diversity in all its forms and have open narratives around that is so wonderful to see as an educator. But Dino, how does it feel as a student stepping into a space like this?
Well, I think Stewart embraces all backgrounds and all religions. I mean, me not being Catholic and my family practicing Christianity. I think that there's similarities, but also differences. And I think Stewart definitely embraces that through theology and through the classes that we take. And then it's not just talking about religion of like the Catholic background, but world religion as well, and learning about all religions all over the world. I think that helps us come together and be more understanding of people. And I think that that is very important, something that Stewart mainly focuses on.
Britt, how about you?
Yeah, just to piggyback off of those two. I'm also a Christian, but not Catholic specifically. But I feel like Stewart like allows other people to like practice their religions and also like recognize the Catholic faith, and we're not like forced into this one bubble of being like practicing and being Catholic. And I really enjoy that about Stewart, and how like you have the option at Mass. So yeah, take communion or be blessed, and that's like a great option to have for people who may not specifically be Catholic. And yes, we do have theology classes as requirements, but sometimes I don't even see those classes as requirements because it's just like another class added to my schedule, and just to learn more about my spirituality or other people's spirituality, and just learn more about the world around me and the people I surround myself with.
I was just talking last week with a student who came by. She's a senior and she's Jewish, and she said she was telling me how that right now her journey is taking her towards being a rabbi, and how this school, this Catholic school that she's grown up in, has really helped her on her own spiritual journey and deepened her faith and her identity as a Jewish person. And so I think that those stories are not unique in this environment, and it's a pride point for me personally as a leader of this space, that all faiths and even no faiths, no organized faith is respected, and really it's I think that it's an investment in the spiritual center of a child, which we all, I think, as leaders of this school, believe that there's an innate spirituality that every child has, and that deserves some airspace. And so, and when we think about health and wellness of our students, to be able to spend time and resources on that area of their identity is just so helpful. I have one other myth that I'd like for you to help me debunk, and that's of size, and that sometimes there's a perception that if you're bigger, there's more opportunities for you. And I want you to reflect on that, because Stewart is a small high school. By design, has been for 60 years. And so I want you to think about what you feel like we get to do because we are smaller. And if you can talk about that a little bit.
The answer is everything. I love this question because it was also one of the reasons why I came to Stewart, to be a part and to lead an environment in a school in which I could truly feel that I can authentically say I know each and every one of my students, that I am able to interact with them all the time during the weeks, that I can coach, that I can teach, and that I can lead in this type of space. And from my perspective, being able to see our students, especially like I mentioned earlier, we're in the course selection process. So our academic advisement process is extremely personalized in terms of how we look at a student, how we have conversations with students in terms of their own personal goals, and seeing the way in which our students embrace every aspect of community life, from their co-curriculars in terms of their clubs, whether they're participating in competition-based clubs, interest clubs like Whimsical and Disney, right? Or they're part of our athletics program, a part of our performing arts program, which we could speak to as well. And then also our service opportunities too, the way in which they embrace all of those alongside an extremely rigorous academic schedule and course load, in which we're making sure that students are balancing a strong GPA while adding rigor year over year during their 4 years with us in the upper school. And I think that's what we get to do when we are small. We get to have students that are involved, that are not just exclusively athletes, that are not just exclusively performers, but really get to explore all of these different aspects of themselves, as they should at this time in their life in high school. But I would love to have Britt and Dana share a bit more about what they're involved in too, and how that feels being a part of a small school environment. Britt?
So yeah, I greatly agree with Dr. Moyo, and I feel like Stewart is a very close-knit community, which I so much appreciate and so very much love, especially with us in the USRC during morning meetings.
What is the USRC? We skip over that as an acronym, but what is that?
Sorry. It's the Upper School Resource Center. The middle school has one too, and lower school has a library. But it's
a fancy word for lounge. I feel like it's like the center meeting spot, right? It's the hub of the upper school. So go ahead.
Yeah, but I feel like we have so much fun in the Upper School Resource Center during morning meetings with Dr. Muoio, and I feel like I'm able to gain such close connections with both my teachers and my peers because of the small size of Stewart, and I get to see my teachers in different realms. Like Dr. Muoio is my coach, my theology teacher, my head of the upper school, and I greatly appreciate that opportunity to get to know her and others. And just to see the community come together on Green and White Day, on service opportunities, in the cafeteria, on stage, out on the field. It's just it's great to know that I know everybody and that I get to know my entire grade. Because I know that's different at other schools and not everybody knows everyone in their grade. So I feel very fortunate to say I know everybody in my grade and I get to have that close connection with each and every one of them to know them personally and get to know them better.
Well done, Britt.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Brittany and Dr. Muoio. Coming from such a huge co-ed middle school and transitioning to these really small classes, I definitely think that was something that very much stood out to me, and not being constantly looked over and only knowing about 20 kids in your grade. Mm-hmm. And I think that is definitely very different. It's something that's really good about Stewart and how kind of everyone knows everybody. Mm-hmm. And since there's such few ish students, you can kind of try everything. Mm-hmm. Classes don't tend to get full. Mm-hmm. And things like that. So you're definitely encouraged here at Stewart to try so many different things. And I know so many people outside of my grade and in my grade, and just the freedom that we have in community here with the small classrooms, it's just you feel you have a personal relationship with every single one of your peers and with leaders and teachers and things like that, especially with morning meeting and the way we just all come together. And sometimes Dr. Muoio even does some comedy.
I do.
We just have a great time. And we also talk about important stuff like announcements and things like that. And we even played golf one time. So we just have a whole bunch of fun and connect with each other.
Yeah, I thank you. Oh, sorry, Ms. Wall. Go ahead.
I was just go ahead.
No, I completely agree too with Dana and Britt. And I think for me in my role too, it's wonderful to be able to step into a classroom and see the value and the power of the relationships between faculty and students and what that looks like in action. And I think being a part of a community where our students have the potential to really truly get to know their teachers and see them in multiple facets of their life adds to that sense of community overall.
Yeah. And maybe if you can talk a little bit about your work with relationship mapping. I think that might be to me that's indicative of how we our values is the work that you're working on with your faculty. And then after that, I'd love to talk about the leadership endorsement program.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. So for the relationship mapping aspect, we are in year 2 of the research implementation. And to just step back for a moment in terms of defining relationship mapping, our director of DEIB, Monique Jones, as well as our upper school dean of students, who's currently on the freshman retreat, Ms. Kristen Zosh, and myself, had several conversations just thinking about with faculty, how do we ensure that every student truly feels known in our space and that they have a trusted adult, hopefully more than one, right, that truly know them. And we were looking for how do we measure this quantitatively? Because we certainly hear it every day anecdotally, but it's also important just thinking about those quantitative metrics by which we can measure our progress and then also frame conversations around that and what strategies can be implemented to continue to strengthen our community in that way. So we utilized and adapted a tool out of Harvard Grad School of Education, the relationship mapping tool. And the difference maker within our school environment from the first year of implementation is that this survey tool is administered to both our students and also to our faculty. So when analyzing the data, we are looking for cross connections where students have identified who those trusted adults are in their community, and then vice versa, our faculty identifying which students they feel they have a strong connection to, who would feel comfortable going to them with any type of issue they may be grappling with. So that was our first year of implementation, was last year. This year, we just implemented again in trimester 1, and we will administer again in trimester 3. This year, we're also right now working with faculty. We have an action research group through one of our professional communities, and we're working right now to frame our focus questions, because we are going to bring together 2 different focus groups, one from the student side in the spring, and then one also from the faculty side in the spring, to be able to collect more formally, more qualitatively, that anecdotal data, and then be able to use that to really cross methods our quantitative data too. So we're excited that this is beginning on a longitudinal process for us, but I think it's only going to help, and has already helped foster a lot of wonderful conversations from the faculty side about what it means to be a Stewart educator, what does it mean to be an all-girls educator, and how we can continue to foster those connections and ensure that every single student feels known and heard and valued within our space.
Yeah. And I think that, this work is all done with the assumption that has been proven by research that girls in particular, when they feel connected to not just their material that they're learning, but also the people and the interconnections of the material and the people, that they are willing and ready to take further risks in their learning and further risks with their leadership. And so I think this work is in service not just to make the students feel safe, which is very important, but that feeling of safety then and belonging then allows them to stretch and grow into all the areas that we want them to grow into developmentally. So with that, also talk a little bit about the leadership endorsement program, because we are one of our pillars in terms of our strategic plan is a leadership development and leadership growth K-12. So if you can talk about the leadership endorsement.
Sure, absolutely. So in the upper school, we have, through the National Center for Girls Leadership here at Stewart, we have a leadership endorsement program. Was more recently, within the last few years, expanded. So we have 4 different potential endorsement tracks that students can opt into. It is an optional program. It's one that we highly encourage for all of our students. And those 4 different endorsements are arts and humanities, business and entrepreneurship, STEM, and social justice. And the way there's a few core tenets I'd like to mention about the endorsement program. First, there is a women in leadership course that's open to all students, but it is required within the endorsement. And students within the women in leadership course have the pleasure to hear from a lot of our different accomplished alumni at all different areas of their career. Some also are currently in college. So young alums talking to our students, again, trying to build that mentorship connection point for all of our young women here. And then also we have a required research seminar course for all of our sophomore students enrolled in the endorsement program. The goals of that research seminar course are so that students can come out with a solid understanding and preparation for their junior venture program, which I'll speak to in just a moment. And the sophomore research seminar course really lets students have and build the skills of a mini dissertation. So they start to develop problem statements, research questions, and they're writing a literature review so that when they jump into the junior venture, which is a year-long research study alongside a faculty mentor, and then also alum mentor, they're able to hop right into developing their methods and actually running, whether it's their experimental research. For some of our arts and humanities students, they may be running a different type of research, humanities-based research. We had the student you mentioned earlier, Ms. Wall, last year completed her junior venture. It was an incredible study focused on looking at the cultural and faith-based significance of mermaids throughout time. It was incredible. It was really interesting. And she's one of our humanities-based endorsement students as well. And then the other aspect of the endorsement that I'd like to talk through is what we're building right now, which is those externship shadow experiences for students to be able to have a pathway to view a potential career, to chat again with that mentorship, especially women to women mentorship, which is so important in a space like this. And from the endorsement perspective, I think we developed the program and continued the program with 2 things in mind. One, we wanted our students to be able to continue to pursue something maybe outside of the curriculum that they are truly either passionate about, curious about, and to have the opportunity and the support to continue down that pathway and explore it further during their time in high school. And then the other aspect is from a college perspective lens, which is really important right now. Our landscape for college, it's very test optional. And it's important that our students continue to be able to tell their stories effectively, and also have the coursework, the academic work, and the stories to back that up. And the endorsement program is an incredible opportunity for students to explore that area of passion while developing a portfolio in which they can present down the road during their college application process.
Great. So I want to close us out, but before I do, I would love to hear from Dana and Britt. If you could reflect on your own leadership growth, however you see leadership, but thinking back of when you started to where you are now, and you're really only partially through your journey at Stewart, but what can you say about how you've grown in your leadership development so far?
So personally for me, I feel like I have definitely grown since like little sixth grade Brittany. I feel like I become more confident in my like public speaking skills, in my leadership skills. I'm the head of one of Stewart's clubs, so that's something I never thought I'd see myself doing, like leading a group of fellow high schoolers. I never thought I could see myself doing that, but here we are, and even speaking here in front of all of you, that's something I never thought I'd see myself doing. So I feel like I'm getting the confidence to like speak and like know what I'm saying and being true to myself and having that conviction. And that's something Stewart has definitely cultivated in me, and to pursue my passions and expand my horizons and just overall just test the limits of my knowledge and my capacity to try new things. And I greatly appreciate that opportunity to do that.
Thank you.
I definitely agree with Brittany. Even though I'm only in like my second year here at Stewart, I've definitely seen a huge difference in my confidence, from also being head of my own club, to just being involved in Stewart, giving tours to new people, to being on panels, to just basically almost like everything, and just being true to myself and raising my hand more in class, and just being really involved in the Stewart community. I think I've definitely taken on a bigger role, especially with the performing arts. Being assistant stage manager and stage manager for most of the productions here so far has been really fun, and just being able to be a leader and help my fellow friends and things like that.
Great. Well, I think that there's no doubt that leadership takes practice. And I think that being able to have a place where you can practice your leadership every day because you have space to do that is a really helpful thing. And I think you all did wonderfully. So thank you so much. We're going to close out. And this will be available in an archive, as well as are the other episodes. So tune in next week. Thanks very much. Bye.
Thank you.